So as a life coach, there's a lot of things I've come to discover, both about myself and about my clients, and really just about life and how we handle what comes up for us. So part of the battle is having the correct mindset, and that can be worked on, and that can make a huge difference, thinking the right way. But what happens when life comes and smacks you upside the head? And even though you have the right mindset, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get triggered, and it doesn't mean you're not going to have emotions and you're not going to have pain, especially when you've gone through life and you've tried to survive some things instead of working through them. So what do I mean by survive them instead of working through them? When you experience something traumatic, you can press it down, suppress it, and not deal with it right away, or deal with it in chunks. It may be so big, so huge, so overwhelming that you don't know how, you don't have the tools. One of the clients I was speaking to this morning, she had some really dastardly things done to her when she was just a teen, and she didn't have the tools to deal with them at the time, and she wanted to seek therapy but wasn't allowed to get therapy. That's one scenario. I had something really traumatic happen to me as a young lady. I was already a mom, I was already a wife, and I still didn't have the tools to deal with or handle or process what happened to me. And because I had to go on, I had to go to work, I couldn't stop working to feel bad or to work through it or to think through it. And I didn't even have the tools. And sometimes when you're so close to it and it's so fresh and so new and it's tied to all these emotions, it may not even be the right time to deal with, or you may not know how. There's all different types of scenarios for why someone doesn't deal with it right away. But when you get to the place where you're ready to seek help, it may be more than one type of help that you need. I say that because if you've dealt with something very traumatic, you may have to go through some sort of trauma therapy. You may have to go through things to know how to release from your body these things that you've been holding on to. It's not always just, I have to think positive. And that's not going to help you deal with the very real, true emotions that were stuffed down, that were not worked through. So you could have the best mindset possible, and you could know how to change your thoughts and how to get into action and how to do certain things. But there can be this underlying, you've heard of muscle memory. So it's this underlying something underneath in your subconscious, stuck in your cells, that needs a different type of healing. So there's so many different types of healing, and I'm not even going to scratch the surface. But I wanted to get on here and talk about this in case you guys are thinking, wow, I've taken all these mindset courses, I've done the right things, I've got a coach, I'm doing this, but certain things still come up, emotions, feelings, anxiety, depression, because there is still some stuff that's not dealt with. And you may be now, in your grown-up mind, maybe you're years beyond or past this event, maybe it's a decade or two, and you I know I shouldn't be thinking this way, I should think this way instead, and you're looking back at the things that happened in the past from a logical point of view, and logic is great, but sometimes it will only get you so far. If you have things that are still trapped in your body that you haven't worked through, there's different types of healing and different types of healing modalities. There's, I think it's called Somatic. I think that means when the certain things are trapped in your cells. That's why I use essential oils a lot. Essential oils, like really high quality ones, like the ones I get from Young Living, they help release traumatic things that have been trapped in your cell. They go past the blood-brain barrier and work through the olfactory system, the sense of smell, and can work things out. Like they're oil trauma release, different release, helps get rid of trapped trauma in your liver. That's just one modality. There's acupuncture. Acupuncture can open up certain pathways, energy, trapped and stuck energy. It's not always good energy that can be released through acupuncture. When they put these tiny little needles, you don't really even feel it. They put it in and it released certain things. I had a friend that did it recently to deal with some trauma she was going through, and certain places, you know, when she told the guy what she was going through, he put the little needles in certain places, and when it hit certain places, just weeping came out. It's just healing tears coming out. There's like people who've been experienced, women who've experienced molestation or rape. There's certain types of stretches with the hips that can open up certain trauma. There's certain body movements that can open up and release trapped trauma, trapped emotions. So you guys, if you have been watching my videos for a while and you're like, wow, I've got so many tools and I know how to think about these things and I know how to, you know, I'm getting a closer relationship with God, and you know what? God can heal all of this stuff. God can take away the pain, He can take away the memories, He can take away the addictions. But because we have a human body, sometimes there's still some stuff trapped in our cells. And it can be passed down. It can be passed down. Sometimes we're dealing with traumas that maybe are even something we didn't even go through. For instance, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about how certain iniquities or sins are passed down 3 and 4 generations. Sometimes we could be dealing with something that our parents or grandparents went through, and it's somehow in our DNA. So I say all that because sometimes you're like, I just feel sad today and I don't know why. And maybe it's not even a traumatic event that you went through. Something is just coming up in your cells and it's based on something that could have been passed down. But I want you guys to have the tools to deal with this stuff when it comes up. Sometimes it isn't all mindset. Sometimes we can't put our finger on it. Sometimes it's trapped in our cells. It's trapped in our emotions. It's muscle memory. So the more you guys can do self-care, the more you can do acupuncture, acupressure, massages, and there's stuff you can do to learn how to do it to yourself, to know where trigger points are. There's trigger point therapy where you're pressing on certain places and it's releasing things that have been stored up that are traumatic. So for instance, I've been open about this. Some of you guys know that I've been dealing with and working through some PTSD I had around my son's premature birth and him getting diagnosed with different special needs. And there's stuff I didn't work through at the time because I just had to keep going and I had to go to work and we had a big mortgage and I didn't have time or the tools to process it. I never went to therapy for it. I tried going to like a support group, but that honestly was awful and it made it worse. So for me, I found life coaching to be my best alternative. And I've even tried, you know, going to different deliverance things, which has helped hugely. And I talk about this in my online course and in my little mini course called The Divine Solution. Listen, if you've got things that you feel like are trapped inside you, and they're just, you don't know how to release them, you don't know how to nurse yourself back to health, you don't know how to pull these slivers out that are bothering you, I want you to check out my mini course, The Divine Solution. It normally retails for $4.97, but I'll put a link in the description so you can get it for $37, which, you know, like what's that, like 90% off? Anyway, I want you guys to have the tools to know, like, how do I get past this painful part? Maybe I can't even get into the right mindset because the painful part is too painful. So working through that, I got triggered today at the library. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the library, try to write for a little bit before I go to work. And I walk into the library and there's a group of men who are special needs, disabled, various intellectual disabilities, disturbances, whatever it is. And I just started crying. I came to the library to work on a different book, and my book about Hollywood, and suddenly I'm triggered into thinking about my son. My son's 16, he's gonna be 17 this year. Pretty soon he might have somebody bringing him out into the world, trying to, having someone who's paid to, take him places and then there's gonna be people looking at him if he's making weird noises or rocking or acting differently. And it just made me sad. I just started crying thinking about, who's gonna care about him the way I do? What's gonna happen when I'm gone? Who's gonna take care of him? And my mind spiraled to this place where luckily I had some Kleenexes with me, where I started thinking really sad thoughts. And when this kind of stuff comes up, the old me would just get back on track immediately and get back into productive mode. I came here to write about something else. But I realized, if I don't deal with these emotions and let them come up and let myself feel them, I keep pushing them down, they're not going to go away. Maybe you've heard the saying, what you resist persists. So you really have to work through something in order for there to be a solution. The fact that it's coming up, that's your body telling you you need to deal with it, that there's something you need to deal with. So when emotions for you come up, when you are feeling, whether it's anxiety or fear or depression, sadness, stop and try to work through it. Try to feel those emotions. Feel them to work through them. Feel them to let them go. Because now feeling them, I just want to put in a caveat here. Feel them to let them out, to let the emotions work through you, but don't go into the mind spiral. The mind spiral is so you may get triggered, you may feel these emotions, you may feel sadness, you may feel fear, you may feel whatever you're feeling, but don't allow your mind to then take you spiraling down into a place of worst case scenarios and possibilities that's just going to make it worse, and it's not even based on anything that is real. Okay? So let me give you an example of that. So instead of just allowing myself to cry, and I was journaling, I was writing down what my thoughts and feelings were when this came up for me a little bit ago. Here's what not to do. Don't then feel it and cry, but then go into worst case scenarios. Oh, this is going to happen, and then this bad thing is going to happen, and then if I die, there's no one going to be to take care of him, and then he's going to end up in a group home, and they're probably going to treat him badly. And I've seen these videos online where they're beating up the patients, and maybe they're just going to use him, maybe they're going to abuse him, maybe they're going to take his paychecks, they're going to take his Social Security, they're going to do that. You know what I'm saying? That's what we can get into this place where it's one thing to feel triggered, to feel the emotions, to try to work through it in your mind, to write about it, to journal it. But it's a whole other thing to let that take you downward onto a spiral that has really nothing to do with the situation, nothing to do with anything that has actually happened and might not ever happen. Okay, so that's the spiral we don't want you to go on. It's okay to feel the emotions and to work through it, but don't let the emotions capture you, take a hold of you, and let those negative thoughts lead you down into a spiral that's getting you to fear and worry and think about things that haven't even happened. Okay, that's anxiety. Okay, excitement and enthusiasm come from thinking about possibilities that haven't yet happened but could happen. So if you get tempted to go on the downward spiral, try instead to have an upward spiral. Oh, but what if this good thing happens? What if he gets to the point where like he can work on his own, he can have a job? What if what if his brain just starts firing up in a different way and he's able to actually figure out how to pay for things himself, and he learns how to balance his money? There's different possibilities that could happen, especially when you start to dwell on good things that have already happened. So instead of me going down and thinking about all these negative things that could happen because of my trigger and other things I've seen and heard and awful things on the news, how about building upon good things that have already happened? So I could build upon the fact that the doctor told me the day I had him that he's probably going to die. Okay, he didn't die. We can build on that. Then the doctors and all the therapists said he was never going to walk. Guess what? He's walking. We can build positive on that. They told me he would never talk. He's talking. We can build positively on that. And there's different positive things you can build on. So instead of doing this downward spiral into negative possibilities of awful things that might happen, I want you guys to do an upward spiral, building on the good that has already come and starting to think about, but this good thing could come. And I've seen healing, and I've seen miracles, and I've seen, there's a lady we know from church who had a leg 2 inches shorter than the other, and God healed her and her leg grew 2 inches longer. I've seen people healed of AIDS. I've seen people healed of hepatitis. I've seen people healed of cancer. And we can start thinking, all the positive things that could happen. So feel the emotions, but do the upward spiral. Don't do the downward spiral. Stop suppressing it. Start to deal with it. Yes, manage your mind. Yes, do your positive life coaching skills, but also look into alternative therapies that have to do with the body. Maybe it's detoxing for you. Like when I have gone on a water fast in the past, it's not just my body that's getting cleansed. Sometimes emotions are getting cleansed out. You'll start to feel the emotions more deeply. You'll start to work through sadness. Different areas will come up as you're praying. I'm not talking about just not eating to not eat. I'm talking about a deep spiritual fast where maybe you're taking 2 or 3 days apart to just drink water and pray and dig in deep and read the scriptures and let God heal you. This is not about a diet. This is a whole different thing. Just want you guys to know that. This is not about weight loss. It's about saying no to my flesh, saying no to what my body wants, saying no, I'm going to press into God and I'm going to get through this, right? They fasted in the Bible, so you can read that if you want some scripture. But you also don't have to fast food. You can fast from electronics. You can fast from social media. You can fast from TV. The point is when you push stuff away that normally grabs your attention so you can focus on God and getting a breakthrough and healing certain areas you need a breakthrough in. So keep that in mind. But fasting is just another tool, just like the acupuncture, just like the massage, just like acupressure, just like certain somatic healing and stretches and the essential oils. I'll put a link for that in here too, where you can get the essential oils like it. But taking care of yourself, you are the only you that you have, and you were called for a purpose. You were made for a purpose, and the things that you've been through, it can be a challenge to overcome them, but you're meant to overcome them. You are an overcomer. So anything that has held you down, held you back, just know you don't have to stay stuck there. There are tools, there are therapies. I mentioned that I went to a hypnotherapist too to give me some suggestions on how to get through the PTSD. So there's answers, and there's hundreds of more answers than I even put here. I mean, some people do certain deep breathing things to work through things. Some people do it by sound. There's different frequencies. You can find videos on YouTube of different frequencies you can listen to. Frequency for peace, frequency for love, frequency for joy. That there's certain sound healings. We have our sight, we have our sound, we have all these different, we have our touch. There's all these different things that can be healing modalities. The Old Testament talks about healing in the herbs. So different herbal remedies, teas, like the essential oils, teas, breathing and things, adding herbs to your food, all natural cleansing, liver detoxes. Liver detox is great since that's where a lot of your traumatic emotions are stored. The point is there's solutions out there, and you don't have to stay stuck. And sometimes it goes beyond just healing of the mind. Sometimes you need to get into those cells in the body and work that stuff out, work that trauma out. And if you haven't already seen, if you haven't read the book, Healing Trauma, I made 2 videos here on YouTube. I'll put a link to those where I'm talking about that book and the different exercises and techniques that you can use to heal the body from the trauma point of view, from the physical nature, not just the mind. So we are body, soul, spirit, right? So we've got our spirit nature, but we also have our flesh body to deal with. And then you have your soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions, which I'm going to be talking about more in the book, So I'm Worthy, Now What? And the advanced course. But I think that's enough for you guys to grab onto now. Start to look into some of those things and get the help that you need. Don't feel stuck. Don't stay in that place of sadness. Don't stay in that place of anxiety. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. Many people have gotten through it, and you can get through it too with the right tools, the right therapies, the right prayer, the right people side by side, the supportive relationships, and you're worth it. You're worth it. You have to spend the rest of your life with yourself, so get the help that you need. You deserve it. And once you're healed, you can help other people get healed too. God bless. Live true, love hard, shine bright.